Hello friends, today I'm going to talk about HashMap. HashMap is the class that implements the map interface. So what map does? Let's talk about that briefly. So map is part of the collections framework, but it is not the interface that extends the collection interface. So it is not part of the collection interface, but it is the part of the collections framework. So map is a special kind of interface that has implementation over storing the values with a key value pair. So you would have the ability to store the value by given the keys, and then later on you can use them or fetch the value with the key that you added. So in short, we can say map is nothing but the implementation of key value pairing and is a part of the collections that represents the all similar entities. So you have previous videos we talked about array list and how HashSet works, right? So this time we're going to talk about HashMap. So only the three thing different with the array list and HashSet, or just totally different from what HashMap does, right? So HashMap, you have to have a two properties, right, in order to store. One would be the value, one would be the key. But in the case of set and list, it is separate, so you don't need to get two sets, you just get one set. And afterwards, then its implementation is same, that it represents the similar entities. That's one thing. And other thing is that you would have to know about HashMap is HashMap will have a key and value, right? So two sets. The keys can never be the duplicate, so you have to have always unique key, otherwise you will get the compile error. But you can have duplicate values, duplicate or you can have null values, or values are fine, right? But the keys cannot be key cannot be duplicate. That has to be unique. That's the main feature of HashMap. There are similar classes that implements the map interface, which would be linked HashMap as well as a hash table. Hash table was came in with a Java 1.0, and then hash table is considered to be the legacy, and also it is a third step. And you might get some questions when you go into the interviews about the hash table. Hash table is also same as HashMap, or all it does is key value pairing. Only different is that it is a third step, and it will be slower than the HashMap. And other than that, there's no duplicate keys and no null key, and values. There are third step. I mean, with the hash table, as far as a HashMap can have at least one null key but no duplicate key, and any number of the null values. That's the only thing different you see with the hash table and HashMap. And other than that, linked HashMap is the one that preserves the insertion order with based on the keys, so that you need to know on that also. And everything else are basically the generic stuff that map does. So let's go with some of the working exercise that you would help learning in this and get more understanding how HashMap does. And later in this tutorial, I'm going to show you some of the advanced stuff that you can do with the HashMap, and then that will help you on your day-to-day work, how and you would understand how HashMap would be able to do so many things that you think it is not possible. So let's go with that. I'm going to show you from the very basic, and then we'll move gradually, okay, so that you don't get lost. Okay, so I created this new class called my hashes demo. It is totally blank, and let me go ahead and create one main method so that I can run this class. Okay, And let me also go ahead and create the instantiation of this class. So let's go ahead and create some hash maps stuff. So we're gonna need this space later on. I'll just remove some space. So public void my string hash. So that's one. Let me write some hash map. What it does? Hash map hm equals new hash map. So this is the class, right? So here you're gonna see how we do things differently in the hash map, and I import hashmap java.util. That's the package it comes from. And anything in the collections that you have to work with, you better import from the java.util. That's the one that entire collections is based off. So don't get confused. Importing different files may perform the different things, and you might be calling out the different methods that you might not want it to work with. So I have this hash map. So here if you see, hm is an object. Basically it is just instantiating this class called hash maps. So what this object is doing is every time this object is being called, it is going to create a new hash map for you. It will create new hash. So let's add some stuff here. hm dot, so just like or at least an set, so you do dot add. That's the method you would use, but in the hash map the case is different. So the hash map you'll have to use word put, put. Okay. So put and get, those are the main methods that you would have to use. Like the massive what do I say, so those are the methods. Those are like frequently used, right? So you would put for putting the value, and then you would get to fetch the value. That's the main thing you have to understand. So I would do put, and put would require the two params. So param is called key and value. Key is the one that needs to be unique. So here I'm going to put as a string as my first. So let's say that is my string value, and then I would say that's the value. Okay. And it doesn't have to be string. We'll talk about that later. Let's continue to add this value. So if you see here, you are seeing it is showing the duplicates. So duplicates meaning you are seeing the keys are duplicate. But let's see what it does. Let's try to print this out. So these are the key sets. Those are the keys that HashMap is using. Okay. So let's run this. To run, let's call this. So if you see here, this is what I was trying to show you. So we put 3 different duplicates on the keys, right? But it only printed me out 1. So what this does is KeySet is a method that HashMap contains that is going to return you entire keys set. So entire keys, it is just going to give you the list, and that is a part of the set implementation. Okay, set. What set does is set is going to show you the unique thing, just like just like hash set does, right? So it's coming from set, so it will give you anything unique, which means it won't add the values that is a second value, right? So why we do this is so that it never give you the wrong value. Every time it is going to read the first value of. If you want to see this, and if you want to run this, it is going to return me the first value still, because it never talks about second value or any duplicates. Now if you want to put this value as a different, so here, and now it is going to give me the values. All three values will be printed out, because that's what it is doing. And friends, here what it does is it has a string. Even if it is inside the code, it goes through those values and really compare them. If they are similar, then they would just consider that as a duplicate. If it is not, then it will just be fine. And now you want to see how about the values, right? If you want to go through the values, values are different. Now you want to see the values. You give the value different, but the keys are same, but then it still is fine. It is totally fine. So you want to read, so this is how you would read the entire set of the keys. There's also something called values dot hm dot values. So it is going to give me the values. Okay, so it is going to give me the values. So the values are duplicate, which is fine. Okay, but keys cannot be duplicate. Keys has to be unique. Now how you get this? So I add these values, right? I add these values, I did put, and then values, I did them, and then when I need to read them, this is how I would read. So I would say hm dot get, right? And then I would give the key. So key is unique again, so whichever value you want, you give the key for that item. So if I want to say first, it is going to give me this guy, so it will print the first here in the all letter capital. Okay, you see that. So you can, if you want to do this instead of that, you can just do this here. And if you just want to do like that, now it's going to print me that RRR thing, right? So this is how you would basically fetch the value and put the values in the hash map. So when you see this, these are keys and values, keys, value, key, value, right? So this key can be numbers too, right? It is fine. Now you want to get this into the value as a 12, and let's see what it does. So it is giving me the value here. So if you want to do another thing, right, because it is giving me null because that value isn't there, so that, sorry, that key is not there. So there's another thing which you want to know about hash map. So if you see here, if you notice this is all showing the yellows, right? So in the yellows, what that means is it is not doing its stuff, right? So it is basically just it is just not representing the correct data. You are giving the key as 12, you are giving something as a string value, and all of these are different. So if you want to do like anything here like that, and this is not how you would like to set your keys. And again, you need to always be focused that what the collection is for. So which means you have to represent the similar types of data or the objects. That's the main purpose of collection itself, right? So we have to represent that. We cannot use any random values. So to do that, what we do, hash map, we have something called generics. We have to apply them so that it restricts user from doing entering any values. So string is string. Let's say I am entering both values as a string, like this guy, right? If my keys is also a string, my value is also a string, then I'll put like this, and then I give this here also, which is the best practice. It is not required though. In the cross street you don't have to, but I would always recommend to do so, because that's how That's just consider the coding standard. You want to be more set to that. So now if you see those all yellow warnings are gone, that those warnings basically means that, hey, I don't understand what type of keys you are trying to enter, what are you actually trying to achieve, and you might lost the feature that is in place or so. That's why you don't want to do that, right? So let's remove these guys out. And now if you see here, this looks much cleaner, right? So now what it means is you are setting this value and then you are getting those values here. So this is just kind of getter and setter, right? So this does the setter piece and this does the getter piece. So that's like very basic fundamental of HashMap, what it does, and then how you work with HashMap. And next thing, let's go some step further on that, right? So when I do that, so here if you monitor that I just put the values here and then I did this here. Let's go some step up. So let's add some of the values here. Let me write that out in the different method. So I would put this as I'll just write loop, and let me call this guy out. So if you see here, I'm just doing the same thing here, but let's put some this values more reasonable. So let's say I'm trying to get some list of cars, right? So my first car would be diesel, let's say diesel car. Diesel is truck, right? Diesel truck. And then it could be gasoline, right? Gasoline could be car, could be anything. You can put any values that you want. So this would be just a ship runs on what do you call, diesel, right? Maybe you're trying to get these all things, different things. So you might have transportation stuff that goes on what items, what gasoline, what types of energy, right? You're trying to store values based on the energy type. So this would be coal, right? And then you might have some electric bus, which could be electricity. So you might just store all of these different values, right, with based on their like engine or the the engine's type. And then now you want to read these values out, and then you see I call that guy. Let me comment the other one so we see more clean codes. And then if I run that over, now you see it's just going to do the same thing because we didn't change anything here. But here just say that you are adding so many things here, and then now you don't know what things gone, something, right? So here if you see, first thing is you need to monitor if I need to loop that over by the keys. So if you see, just hover over here, it is a set. Okay, key set is a set. So why don't we loop that key set, right? So set and just go one by one. So if I do that, I will do like set. Because it's a string, I'm going to get the string as a generic my set, right, equals new hash set. You know that. So I just created instances of set, and then I imported all of these imports that it requires. So let's do that. Now let's go through that. So my set equals hm dot key set, right? So this is the key set. So if I want to do this, you don't have to do this in one line or just this is just clear what I would like to do. So now let's do the loop. Okay, for the string my st equals my set, right? So now you can put the conditions whatever you want. In my case, let's say if my st, right, dot equals, or you can put equals ignore case, equals ignore case. These are the keys, okay? So keys, let's say electricity. So what this is doing, it is looping over every keys. Then I'm going to print. Then I say right, something like that. Else what I want, else you say go green, right, something like that. So now what it is doing is it is going to, every time it is trying to loop over each one of this, and when it goes to electricity, it comes to electricity bus, right? Basically all I'm trying to show you is how you can, you know, put your logic and based on what you're actually trying to achieve. So here you can just take it that you might have this value representing something else which you want to read the value of this, or then you can put the some conditions like that. If this is the condition, then if you find that, if you please, so for this case, let's say your scenario is like, please go find me the keys. I don't know which key I have, but if I have this key, if I have this key and, you know, I want to read the values here, then, you know, please go find me the values, something like that, right? So then you can just say so print that out value for me. So for example, this is the key, right? This is your key. So when you have that key, then what you want is you want to read that over, right? So which you would say hm dot get, right? Get is the value that you would actually read that over. So what you say is, go, if you find the electricity, go get the electricity's value for me, right? That's what it is trying to do. So you see this put is going to store the values, and now next time when you try to call, you have only one argument, you don't have a two. If you see here hm.get, it's only one thing here, and then you provide that. Now it's going to give me electricity bus, okay? And that's how you would basically fetch the value. You don't have to loop that, however you need to know what the key is, right? So you can even put that here, but it should be out, not be outside the method. So you could just say hm dot get, right, um, gasoline, right, and then it will just read me this value, which means car. So you want to run that out. So now you see car. So that's how the hash map will return you the values, okay? So that the hash map values, it's just get, always is get is the method that will require one argument, which is the key to be that was stored. And let's say this value has no values, right? For example, car has just null value. Let's try that out, right? That is okay, right? So let's run that. What it does, it just gives you null, because it's just null, right? There's no value. So null value is okay. And then another thing is, so what we did is here we just looped over the over the keys. Now we can do the same thing with the values. So if you see here hm.values, right? So values is just part of the collections. It is not just specific to a string, because if you say keyset is part of the set. So you have to have an you know, you have to have unique values, unique keys. In the values is fine, so you can use anything with the collections implementation. For example, if I want to loop that over with the values, I would be able to just do it as right. So let me import that out, and then I want util.list, right? And then I say my list equals hm.values, right? Okay, so that's there. And let's see what this guy is trying to do. So cast, or you could do just collections. So instead of list, just do the collections. Okay, so now let's do this. And what this guy is doing here, remove my list and all assignments. That's okay. Let's print this out here. So if I want that for okay, these are the values, so it is going to print me out the values. So if you see, these values are there. So that's also one thing. And another thing which you can do is you have, let's do some formatting here. So these are basically the how HashMap does. And next thing what you want to do is, let's go some step above. So what is the purpose? Is that the purpose that we want to always store in the same class and just read the values? Better not, right? So this class may be, usually what you want to do in the day-to-day activities, you want to create this class, the method that stores as a hash map as a static method, so that you can just get this guy dot that method and then just put or get the values. So let's set something out and make my code some cleaner, right? And then let's set this guy up. Let's do some extra work here. So what I did is I removed all of those cleanup, and let's move on. So I'm trying to create something generic that can be used across entire project anywhere, right? Any package can just call this and then store value and get the value. So to do that, I'm going to use something called HashMaps, some universal feature. Let me get this guy out here by getting some assignments. Which is called map string, okay, my map. Let's put this as a static, okay, is equal to new HashMap string. Okay, that's basically, I'm just getting this my map, the object, static object, so that I can utilize this. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to create something called static method, public static store. This is my method. Okay, here I'm going to provide public static void. I'm going to provide this guy with the two parameters, string key, string val ue value. Okay, and what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to just get this guy over. So how I do this is I'm going to set my map dot put, right, key value, right? So what I did here is I simply store the value with this feature. I store the value. All I'm doing is I'm creating a new method utilizing this map feature that I'm passing two keyword. Okay, this keyword is nothing but the map. Okay, so this object will help me store the given value keys to the values for this method. If anybody is calling this static method with this guy, then it is going, they will be able to utilize this. And let me make this as something just refactoring this name of this class so that it looks much better. Okay, I'm going to write this as a my utils. So I'm going to just rename this. It will show some okay, so after some times it refactored everything. So I'm going to remove this method also because I'm not using this. Basically I'm just creating this as just to utilize this as a utility class. So I'm just putting my utils as a class name, and so anybody wants to use this would call my utils.store, and then they can pass two parameters it will store. And now I'm going to read the value. To read the value, I'm going to put something called public static string, right? Retrieve. So I want somebody to pass me the key before they want to read, right? So what I'm going to do is, if somebody's passing me the key, I'm going to say return my map dot get, right, get key. If somebody's passing me key, I'm going to give them the value that they are asking here. So that's all here. Okay, so all I did is I did a static. Let's forget about that first. So I have a map. I'm giving it generics twice here. So what this means, it is asking two parameters. I'm restricting that from a user. Just like in array list, you are giving that once, but here you give twice. With the my map, you're giving him a map, and then with the new hash map, what you do is string a string, and you are just giving this parents, right? So this is the whole line. That's all you need to remember. The rest is the same. You have a static method with a two parameter key and a value, right? If somebody's using this with, if you are calling this, I'm going to put the map with the keys and values, right? And then next time you can use a retrieve with a key and a value, right? So now that's all I want to do here, and I want to use this guy's store method in some other class. So let's create that class. New class. I'm going to call my util demo. It could be any names, don't get confused. It doesn't need to be demo. So I'm just going to do something here, public right. So all I'm doing is here, I'm just going to print out. So here my utils dot put, wait, my utils dot put, right? Sorry, there's no put. So you have a store, right? Store is the method that you want to use. So you don't want somebody to use the generic hash map. You are using basically yours. My value, right? Could be anything, but that needs to be two string parameters, right? So you are adding more values. You can add many as you want. My second key, right? My first key, right? Anything, right? Doesn't have to be like multiple stores, right? You can just skip one, it is still fine. So all it matters is what key you're passing, that's the one it is going to return you. So what you say is dot get, or which is retrieve in this case. Now you give the key, right, key as what you want to read, right? So let's see this how it runs. You have to get that two brackets, so that is good. So all I'm doing is I'm not even worried on this. I just comment that out. So I store this value, I'm reading this. Okay, and next thing is it's a static method. Okay, you could call this guy from any classes. You don't have to come in same places. All I'm is just showing this what it is doing. Okay, so it is reading me my value. So which is how you do, you could just read this from any other class, right? Other class, just create another class. So just say my value, right? So this is like something class called my value. But the problem is you have to call this method. Somehow you have to store this value. If you store this value, then you can call this. Okay, that's the only thing you need to understand. So I think that's all for now. And then you already went through that looping the keys and then values, and it doesn't need to be this, because that method, if you want to go that method is two string args. That's why we're passing the string. Otherwise it could be number, but based on what this method is doing, that's what we're doing. We are basically just enhancing the map just so that we can customize that as a static method, so we don't end up writing map always. So every time we just continue to write this and provide the new key each time we want to use. I think this has been very clear now, and this is basically covering entire hash map stuff. There are other things also you can do in the hash map, where you can get maps over maps, that let's go with that in the other classes. And which would be just something like this. Instead of this, you can just pass, right, uh, map over map. So this is how you can do this also. That's also fine, but then you have to do the same thing here. Okay friends, so I hope this has been clear, and I believe this has helped you understanding how HashMap would work and how its implementation with a map, how it is work, and how you can create universal like a store retrieve method, so that you can use across the project, and how you can manipulate along with the different types of data, and also utilize this multiple like a generics over map implementations, like this map over maps. And then how you can loop with the keys or the values, how you can use the set uh, by using the for each loop. And then we went through all of those stuffs, and I believe this has been very helpful. And please continue to watch my video, and continue to subscribe my channel. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much.